So I'm here with Kirby Dick, and having just seen his new film, The Invisible War, at the Sundance Film Festival. And I'm also here, very honored to be with the people who were brave enough to be part of his film. I'm going to go across. Please say your name.
Corey Choka.
Trina McDonald.
Valine Demos.
Michael Matthews.
Jessica Henvis.
Thank you. And all of you have been victims of sexual assault and rape, and all of you have honorably served in our military. This is an issue that, Kirby, your film brings out. It's been written about before, but it's very, very powerful, and obviously not the first time you have taken on the issue of sexual assault in powerful institutions and how victims have not been recognized. Why did you even, how did the subject come to you?
Well, Amy Ziering, one of the film's producers, and I read an article about this. We were astounded by the numbers, and we were even more astounded that no film had been made on that. And so, you know, it was at that point that we made the decision that we wanted to make a film on this. And because in many ways this is one of the most, if not the most, underreported crime in the country over the last couple of generations.
Mm-hmm. And what did you discover in the making of this film?
Well,
in terms of the scale.
Oh, the numbers, yes. I mean, there's no question that there's at least 500,000 men and women who have been sexually assaulted and raped in the U.S. military over the last couple of generations, and it could easily be above 1 million. And these are people that are in society that are our fellow citizens that have been you know, so brutalized, and we have really yet to acknowledge them as a society.
Mm-hmm. Trina, would you mind? I know that it is so difficult to talk about this, and I don't know what it was like for you to watch yourself on screen bear some very, very private details, not just about the assault that you endured, but the aftermath and how there was a cover-up, and many of you in the film who talked about this said openly that the assault was terrible, but what was worse was the lack of response from the people who you trusted.
For myself, I wasn't able to actually report my crime. It was because the people that I was being assaulted by were the people that were doing it. And so, you know, afterwards, after leaving my duty station and coming back to the lower 48 in California.
You were in the Navy in Alaska.
Navy in Alaska. And so, you know, not only did they try to kill me there when I came back to lower 48, they had...
Tried to kill you?
Yes. Threw me in the Bering Sea. And left me, and I luckily got my breath about me and was able to pull myself out of the water. But when I finally got sent off the island solely because I actually injured my knee and got sent to the lower 48 to California and had to leave my stuff, my personal belongings behind, and when I got my personal belongings in the lower 48, they'd actually gone through and took my address book, photos of my family, and made it very clear that, you know, what they had done wasn't going to go any further, you know, because for my story, it's like there was 3 assaults that I remember, the rest of them I don't because I was incoherent, I was drugged. But I know that they happened, just physical responses. But, I mean, seeing myself in a film, it's like, you know, I hope that it just, you know, my voice is heard. You know, and then help some other person that's thinking about it and listening to, you know, maybe think again, get more educated, ask questions, and, you know, when they go in, know who they can go to and talk to.
Well, I mean, yeah, please address the fact, if you would, those of you who were in the film, did you feel that you were the only person who had gone through this, and then through the making of this film, did you meet other people who allowed you to know that this was more common than you might have thought?
I felt alone and isolated at the time. I felt like...
Tell us what was... give us just the basics of what happened to you.
After I was raped, I was immediately moved to another squadron. Being a small flight line, people got word.
You're in the Air Force.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
I was excommunicated. Everybody had turned their back on me from my old squadron. Then I was harassed, so I was sent to another base. And then I was sent off the flight line to another like just further and further back from my career to like eventually just a back office where we had nothing to do, just file things that didn't need to be filed. And I felt like I was a bad soldier, like I couldn't suck it up like they wanted me to and move on. The mental health wasn't, they'd never even heard of MST, several of my counselors. I got bad write-ups that the problem was me. I eventually was discharged for having MST against my wishes. I fought to stay in the military.
MST is
military sexual trauma.
okay.
So all of these things, I felt completely isolated. I didn't have counselors even telling me how I felt like I was going crazy. I didn't understand it was just PTSD. I didn't understand what that was. I tried to do an inpatient because I was feeling so suicidal, but it was all men, and I couldn't lock my room at night, and that was my only option. So all of the, they don't give you, the SART lady on base doesn't answer her phone. She told me she has the job of 3 people, and she's just too busy to deal with, explaining things the help that I needed. So it wasn't until I went to a book signing by Kirsten Homestead, who wrote The Girls Come Marching Home. There was another female soldier that she told my story, and that was the first time I felt connected. Like, she's telling, I called my husband crying, and he cried because we didn't understand what all this was, what we were feeling, why we couldn't make it work, And this film to me is going to be that voice of people. It's such a weight lifted off you to feel like, okay, it's not me, it's them, because you're so in the system and the machine that you can't reason it, you can't see outside of it. Plus all of the things you have to deal with rape. I feel like the way the military handled my rape was worse than being raped.
Mm-hmm. Michael, thank you for being here. You bring up the issue of male rape, and you were sexually assaulted. Were you in the Army? Is that correct?
Air Force.
Air Force? Oh, okay. So why are you here, and what is the stigma attached to that makes it so difficult for you to talk about this? You said you went 30 years without talking about it, right?
Yeah. Well, I was raised in New York, and a little more street smart than people from the country are aware, and dealing with the system, let's say, and I knew that after it happened, I knew if I reported this, it's not going to go well for me, and I didn't know who they were, and you sit down and you think about it, and you say, and now I find out, I thought I was the only one. I was the only guy in the military that was raped. And when I came forward and we started doing work and counseling and getting into groups, and all of a sudden I started finding out this end of it, where people do come forward and ruins their life. Not coming forward ruins your life too, but it's you go off into this end of it that I was just doing this to let men know it was okay to come forward. Until we fighting this for 10 years, nobody would listen to us. Amy and Kirby were the only ones that would gave us a shot. They made this movie, it was made solely about women, and they were gracious enough to insert us after my wife contacted them. I mean, nobody wants to hear about the men, and that's because the media doesn't want to carry it. It ticks me up to no end. I've called and wrote everybody, Oprah Winfrey, go down the line. I mean, you just go on and on and on, and nobody wants to respond to it.
Thank you.
And it's okay.
Thank you. Well, only because I only have
Go.
so much time. Well, Corey, something incredible just happened downstairs. You've been fighting for 5 years for the Veterans Administration to pay for medical surgery that you need.
Yes, ma'am.
And they've rejected your claim, correct? That happened in the wake of during your rape.
They didn't reject my claim. What happens is they fee-based me out to civilian docs because they can't do it there. And they don't pay my doctor bills. So what happens is I'll go through the initial treatment, and they say, wow, you're really bad. This is your first treatment plan, and we're going to give it to the VA, and we'll pay for everything, get it squared away, get paid for. So they send it to the VA. The VA doesn't pay my bills. So then afterwards, the doctor's like, we can't see you anymore because the VA aren't paying us. So then I go to the next doctor, and it's repeated. They don't pay the bill.
Right.
So then they just told me, find another doctor, but don't tell them about these other doctors. So it's repeated. Like, I'm just going through these doctors, telling my story again. In the past 6 months, I've probably had at least, I'm going to say, 6 to 8 sets of x-rays, 3 MRIs. It just never stops. I'm constantly getting pumped full of radiation when I don't really need to. I could stick with one doctor if they would just pay the bill and quit messing
You
up.
think, and you think the reason why they won't is because it would mean accepting culpability?
I don't know why they do the things that they do to me. I don't have an answer for that, but clearly they don't want to fix something. I mean, they could go for other veterans too, not just for me, but veterans are the last on their list at Veterans Affairs.
Well, something really good just happened downstairs. Why don't you tell us what that was after the screening?
I'll try as best as I can. I got pulled out real quick by Miss Amy Ziering.
The
And,
producer.
They there was people I don't even know who they are. And I think that's I don't even know who they are, but they're strangers and they want to help me.
And they said they would pay for your surgery.
Yes, and
You need jaw surgery.
I couldn't even talk to them because
Right.
if I could go one day without feeling pain in my face, I don't
Thank you.
know. But it's
Well-
not their job to do. It was the VA, it's the government's job, and here they are picking up the slack where they leave off. I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being so open with me, and thanks Kirby, and we'll be sharing the message with the world. Thank you all.